Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 389. Let's go. I reconfigured some of my mic settings, so I hope it sounds a little better, a little bit more crisp. I noticed, like, while recording some stuff, I realized how every time I say something with, like, the letter F in it, like family, fun, like, you won't hear the F properly. It will sound like like I'm not saying the F. It's because I had like a noise suppression filter on my mic, which now I deprioritized it. It's still there, the noise suppression, although it's not a priority, right? So now you should hear some of the words pronounced a little better, but at the cost of maybe you hear some background noises like I tap my desk all the way over here. You're probably going to hear that while I'm speaking. At least not when I'm not speaking. I changed the filters so that it doesn't detect that, at least, I hope. So we're going to see how it goes. First stream testing that out. Yeah, I'm doing this one standing up too, so I'm going to increase the height of the desk a little more. I don't know if you could even hear that, the desk moving. Whatever, I'll check it out later. So yeah, small stuff like that. Anyways, it's Friday. I enjoyed my day off doing absolutely nothing. So we have Bitcoin currently at 68,191. What happened? I thought we were promised 80,000. Don't worry, we will get there, I think. I still think we can, absolutely. I was hoping we could at least maintain the 70,000 price for Bitcoin. Seems like that wasn't the case, for good reason. We did get the volatility, but it just was toward the downside. And that's because the economic data that we got today was actually really bad. Really bad. And I warned about this stagflation issue in yesterday's stream. Why do I have a 1 second chart? Is this real? Did I just crash my whole thing? This is actually a thing. Okay, well, there you go. The 1 second chart. What is this? Why do I have two super trend lines? What is going on? This is crazy. Cool. Little new feature. I will never use that again, but thanks. It's cancer to look at that. The price is like not moving for like a few seconds and then it all updates all at once. It looks catastrophic. It gives me PTSD to October 10. I'd rather not look at that. Anyways, I still think 80,000 is on the table for the next week or two. Absolutely. We did hit a good high in retrospect for this week. 74,000, that was really good progress, right? I'm happy with what we got. Unfortunately, due to this economic data that we got, like I said, we dropped, which I still think nonetheless we will recover and continue rising at least up until we hit that 80,000. Then I give you license to continue dropping if you have to. Realistically, I also mentioned we could drop to 64,500 and we'd still be in an uptrend. That is still the case. Like throughout this weekend, if we somehow do get volatility, which we shouldn't, but if we do, and if it drops even further to 64,500, do not panic, you'll be perfectly fine. We'd just be a bit oversold at that price, and it should continue with its trend toward the upside, ideally. I don't think it's going to happen. I just think we're going to flatten out around 67, 68,000. Hopefully, like, instead of a decay, can we just get like a bit of a rise, gravitate toward the 70,000 level once again? I wanted us to start next week 70,000 or higher. Maybe we get that kind of volatility on Sunday. We shall see. But that way, you know, we would start off the week strong. And that's kind of what I want. I want to see that optimism to help us rise to where I think we deserve to be. But sometimes the market will not do what I want. So far, it kind of has done what I want after not doing what I wanted for the past 2 months, but that's okay. So I still think we should be good. I don't know, this mic setting, I think you're going to hear me exhaling a lot harder. Me being exhausted from talking too much. I feel like this is an issue when I speak, like just in general. Like I get too excited about a topic and I just start yapping for too long and then I'm just out of breath and I have to like, oh wait, I'm talking too much, talking too fast. And I'm just too excited. I don't know what the point is. But anyway, that's Bitcoin for you. Why did this look exactly the same? Okay, never mind, I'm tripping. We lost 2,000, of course, with Ethereum. As Bitcoin managed to drop below 70,000, that is to be expected. Currently 1,976. We bottomed at 1,954 with Ethereum. Realistically, we could drop to 1,850 and we will be perfectly fine. So we've got, you know, a bit of a cushion to handle a drop if that is necessary for whatever reason. I don't see the reason why, and I would rather us to kind of continue on our movement upward like this, you know, because we have a lower high, higher high, lower high, no, higher low, sorry. See, I'm saying this wrong. Higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This should be a higher low. I'm hoping that we don't continue to dropping because it would be a terrible break of structure. And then we should, you know, continue with our higher high, etc. up until wherever we have to rise up until. I don't know, things cannot be beautiful in life, so we must accept whatever reality is. Solana kind of doing its own thing here. Didn't rise as much, so we have a drop to $84, $84.50 currently. We could drop to 78. I guess we'll be fine. I do expect Super Trend to continue on the rise, little by little. No other thoughts on Solana here. I guess 80,000 equivalent. I would expect it above 100. But maybe I'm putting my expectations too high. I don't know. This rise that we got with Solana, it's a bit concerning to me. We didn't rise as much. Bitcoin did, but not Solana. And Solana's usually supposed to rise a bit more than Bitcoin. And so would Sui. But Sui also did not have that big of a move. So, yeah, concerning nonetheless. But that's fine. Chainlink, $8.76. Not a lot going on here, dropping from where we were at $9 plus at that point. I do also expect it to reach a high of $10 if our uptrend is to continue. My analysis hasn't really changed here. I skipped over Sui. 89 cents, not able to break $1. We do need this volatility, like the volatility to come back into Sui. It's kind of dead right now. Nobody wants the altcoins. Nobody wants to catch the heat, which is fine. I don't blame you. We're in a bear market, and I'm also not trying to catch the heat of any altcoin right now. I'm playing it safe as well with Bitcoin. So, like I said, I can't blame you. 82 is where we could drop to, and we would still be fine in an uptrend as of right now. We'll see how things continue. Hyperliquid, $30.81. Slightly, losing the $30 support. We dropped to a low of $29.41. What do I expect? If a correction is to happen, we can hit 27 and we'll be perfectly fine and continue with our trajectory upwards. Yeah, I still think we'll be fine with Hyperliquid. We'll continue with the rise overall, regardless of market conditions. Even if the war fears or uncertainty continues on, if people are buying gold and silver, Hyperliquid will still benefit. And that's the ace up its sleeve that it has. Litecoin also ideally should continue with this uptrend, although we can tolerate a drop to 50. A lot of coins will have that cushion to drop, as I've mentioned. For Bitcoin, it's 64,500. For Ethereum, it's, what was it? 1850. Solana, we could drop to 78. Like, we've got cushion for a lot of these. Chainlink, it was $8.22. Sui, it was 82 cents. Hyperliquid, it's $27. For Litecoin's case, it's $50.88. We're fine. Like, we can still continue this uptrend overall, right? You just got to ignore whatever short-term volatility we may get. I don't even think we're getting anything during this weekend. I just feel like we're just going to flatline over here and then continue higher for next week. That's just what I see. What do we got for a BitTensor? Same deal. Like, we've got cushion to drop from 176 where we are right now down to 161 and we'll be fine. It wouldn't be ideal, like I said, to see that. Because, you know, you kind of are like just lateralizing, I guess. But ultimately, if we do use those support levels to continue higher, then we'll just adjust whatever uptrend we have and it will just make things more shallow instead of a steeper uptrend, something more easier to break, right? Shallow ones are not that easy to break. Monero. Also continuing with the movement, I deleted my little drawing I had. It played out perfectly, by the way. I didn't have any specific like actual entry or money put in there, so whatever played out, I hope you took advantage of my drawing. That kind of worked out. What is my new drawing? I don't have a new drawing for you. I don't know. I just expect it to continue higher overall. We have the cushion to drop to 316. We'll be fine. Hedera, no real thoughts on this as well. You see the price levels here. I don't know what... Like, I don't know how to read these numbers. 09701, 702 is the current price. We could drop to 09306, I guess, if you want me to read it like that, if you do truly care. Now, are we at a crucial level? Yeah, probably. But I still think overall an uptrend will prevail. Even if we drop to something like this, I feel like this would be the overall expected result from Hedera, meaning that this downtrend line should be gone soon. But I will not really remove it yet. We'll see how price plays out by, I wouldn't even say tomorrow. Literally by next week, I guess. We'll see which one it ends up following over here. Crypto Squid, hello, my good fellow. Yes, that is all I have for these alts and Bitcoin. So we've got some room to drop, which wouldn't be ideal. I still think we're going to rise overall. The bad news with the war stuff, I think that's all kind of behind us now. Can it escalate? Maybe, if Russia and China get involved. Will they actually get involved? Probably not. What else could ruin things? Prolonging the war, boots on the ground is another thing that a lot of people are talking about, which we'll be discussing when we get to our news. That's also, I guess, maybe something negative. We don't want this thing to be prolonged, but ultimately we'll just get used to it and we'll continue rising. We're already trying to give ourselves a timeline. I know we initially started with maybe 4 to 5 days. Okay, now it's 4 to 5 weeks that this might take. I think we're all kind of aiming for the 4 weeks time frame of this war. 1 week's already gone by. Let's not forget. 1 week ago, almost, they've already done their attack. So they just got 3 more weeks. We put a 30-day sanctions relief on Russia to allow oil to be purchased from them, especially from other countries like India. Yeah, we're making a small sacrifice in the Ukraine war, kind of. And that's ultimately to mitigate the effects of the Iran war with the Strait of Hormuz, which we talked about yesterday. The fact that the global oil supply is having this issue, because 20% of it is being blocked because of that Strait of Hormuz being closed by the Iranians. But we're trying to mitigate that in our other ways, to offset the damage, of course, of that the supply shock is giving us. We're now using Venezuela's oil. We're exporting even more oil, or not exporting, but I guess kind of exporting. We're also producing a lot more oil, because inflation is going to be another issue as well, with the oil costs and the military costs as well. But inflation should be good, nonetheless. But then when you pair it with something like the jobs data that we got today, I guess we'll go ahead and get into our news. This is our next subject. Yeah, not a lot of information for the cryptos. They didn't really do much important moves today. Kind of toward the downside, but I still think like we're perfectly fine where we are. That's my overall thoughts on the markets. Now, when you pair it, like I said, with the economic data that we got today when it comes to jobs market, it was really bad what we got. Revised data, first of all, from previous, we had 126,000 jobs added. Okay, sure, that's not too bad. Fine. What did we expect? 59,000 jobs. I left you guys with that yesterday. What did we get? We actually lost 92,000 jobs. That sucks. The unemployment rate rose 0.1%, oh no, to 4.4%. So unemployment is on the rise. We're losing jobs. And inflation is also on the rise. This is where the Fed gets stuck. What do? Do we cut rates? Do we hike rates? Do we leave them where they are? They have to balance these two things, inflation and jobs market. That's what their mandate is. What would you do if you were a Fed governor? If it was up to me, I'd just spike inflation because I want Bitcoin to rise, and then I'd kill the country and the dollar. But that's obviously not what you're supposed to do, right? To save the jobs market, you probably want to start cutting rates to get the money flowing. But that means inflation is going to be on the rise. Even more than it already is right now. Inflation is on the rise. We just got that economic data last week or two, I think. We got PCE, PPI, CPI data. All of those metrics are pointing toward inflation is on the rise. But the economy is also slowing down. Our GDP growth rate was not good for the previous quarter. Yeah, we blame the government shutdown. Okay, sure. But, okay, something's got to happen. We got to stimulate the economy somehow. Normal way to do it would be to cut rates. Make it easier to borrow or spend money. But like I said, if you do that, inflation will just go out of control and on the rise. If you don't do anything then, yeah, maybe you'll control the inflation a little bit, but the jobs market, as it stands right now, will continue to suffer. People will spend less and will ultimately, potentially, enter into a recession. And you'll just worsen things if you hike the rates. That's why hiking rates is just completely off the table. And that's where this whole term of stagflation kicks in with the Fed. What do we do? Do we cut rates? Or do we just leave things as they are and let everything rot? So that's part of the reason why we did our drop today. Now, on a normal occasion, the bad jobs data would be bullish for markets, wouldn't it? Like, the economy is slowing down. We need to stimulate the economy, turn on that money printer. More money equals more money that could potentially come into Bitcoin. More liquidity, this thing will rise. The thing is that we do already have a lot of liquidity. We have enough liquidity to send Bitcoin to $1 million right now. If we just transfer all the market cap of gold over here, that would be ideal, but it's not going to happen. We're seeing trillions flow in and out of gold, as I've mentioned before. It's just not coming into the crypto markets. What does this mean? This means that people are rather holding on to stuff that they believe is safe. But the US dollar is also not safe. Because if we look at the dollar index, that was on the drop today. Right? Thank you. This was from economic data. 7 a.m. this morning, we dropped ultimately on the dollar index. If the dollar index is dropping, the strength of the dollar is going down. Shouldn't Bitcoin be going up? The answer would be, yeah, it should. But the thing is that people are not buying Bitcoin, though. People are selling off the dollar, or not really selling off the dollar, but rather holding something else, such as gold in this case. People think gold is the safest thing right now. Times of war, recent all-time high. Retail interest is also at all-time high. So it just makes logical sense, according to the people, to hold on to gold instead of magic internet money. So, sure, fine. Knock yourself out. Buy gold, I guess. But I still think Bitcoin is the right play overall for this. A better hedge against inflation against gold. Yeah, it's magic internet money. Yeah, it has a quantum computing threat. But we don't have to worry about that for so long. And by the time all that time passes, surely Bitcoin will be back on the rise again. This will all blow over. War with Iran will end. That will be bullish overall. Clarity Act should pass, hopefully. And there's a lot more stuff that the United States is also planning for the markets. So, yeah, that's my overall thoughts on it. Too much analysis. Jeez, I gotta stop with the yapping. Let's actually get into the news. Okay, so kind of restating, I guess, what I talked about. U.S. jobs data that we got today triggers economic red flags. The latest U.S. labor report shocks with unemployment hitting 4.4%, missing the 4.3% forecast. Meanwhile, February lost 92,000 jobs against expected gains of 50 to 60,000. And revisions paint a darker picture. In January, we revised it toward the downside. It was 130K, and we actually revised it to 126K. So we're lying. And December also flipped to 17,000 jobs lost. Why are we revising all the way back there? We're just pumping out this fake news, fake economic data, and then revising it months later and hoping that nobody notices and blaming it all on the shutdown. Is that what we're doing here? I guess. The Sam rule. Isn't that some lady who measures like the recessions. Yeah, recession signal. What's her name? Oh gosh. Dark theme, please. Thank you. Where do we see like who invented? I guess we don't. Who invented the Sam rule? Claudia Sam. There we go. I'm not crazy. See, I remember the people. I just don't. Oh, it's literally here. Gosh. I should start reading the posts before opining on it. Okay, fine. So the Sam rule, a recession signal, it edges closer to triggering, as economist Claudia Sam warns. This is a warning we can't ignore. Crypto markets, tied to macro trends, could see sharp moves in Ethereum and Solana as risk sentiment shifts. This data suggests unpriced volatility ahead for digital assets. Well, I hope it's the good kind of volatility. It seems like it's obviously going to be the bad one, but how much worse can it get? It can always get worse, to be honest. The US economy is losing jobs, and oil is up 13%. Now, that's an important thing to look at as well. The movement of oil. It points towards stagflation risks. Because, you know, oil is on the rise, that means inflation is likely also on the rise, and jobs market is suffering. That's the discrepancy that I was telling you about with the whole stagflation issue. It puts them in check, like the chess position. Job losses signal weakening growth, and oil drives inflation higher. Limited good moves ahead, easing risks, more priced pain. Tightening hurts the slowdown. It's a tough spot for macro assets. Did we just top out? Maybe. But I'm sure we're already pricing all of this in, right? And even still, it's not that bad. And I still think we are like really oversold. How much lower can we truly go? I don't know. I think the biggest sellers have already done their selling, and the biggest holders have already done a lot of their accumulating. Yeah, a lot of people are not interested in buying right now. Otherwise, we'd see the trillions, the rotation from precious metals coming into crypto industry, but it's not happening yet. But the money is there. And I'm early. I think I'm early. So, we now have the second largest monthly job loss since the pandemic. Oil prices are up 60% in 4 months, and a new two-year high. Gas prices are up more than 20% since December 2025. Rip Trump's promise, by the way, about, oh yeah, less than $1 a gallon per gas. Sure. PPI inflation, it's rising unexpectedly to its highest level since July 2025. The 10-year note yield is up 20 basis points this week, and $600 billion plus in expected AI investment from the Mag 7 companies in 2026. Own assets or be left behind? Yep, I think so. This is important. I guess we're talking about Iran here. Trump just said he would be happy to do the same thing in Iran as he did in Venezuela, which would be regime modification instead of a regime change. Because regime change, I've been looking into it a bit more. I think it's going to be really difficult to do in Iran. It's a really big country for that sole reason. Like, who is going to take over all that? If he means it, then this is very significant, very good news, as this removes the option of collapsing the regime through whatever means necessary, which includes arming separatist groups, the Kurds, and whomever else is in there. I'm not Persian, I don't know, okay? A regime change risks turning Iran into a failed state. A regime modification means that we just get rid of the terrible regime while also aligning Iran with US strategic interests. A win for Americans and Iranians, and a loss for China and Russia. The ball is now in the regime's hands. Will they yield to Trump and accept a more moderate leader, or will they fight till the end, putting ideology first and driving their country into oblivion? The former. We shall see. We shall see what happens, I guess. Now, the whole talk about China and Russia maybe getting involved, I think it's too late for them to get involved. And what are they really going to do? But this is happening, I guess. China might step into the Iran conflict. They're sending a special envoy to the Middle East to push for mediation in the conflict involving Iran. The U.S. Navy warns China is rapidly expanding their production of advanced submarines that could threaten the U.S. from closer to home. Because we were usually saying Iran is not a threat to us. Yeah, but they're partnered with China and Russia, and they are a threat to us as well. To us, I say to the United States. So, because we would say, yeah, they can't reach their missiles over here. I know, but they can. Russia, China. But that's okay. Pete Hegseth says, you know, on the reports that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran to help target U.S. assets in the region, he says that, well, we're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything. We have the best intelligence in the world. We're aware of who's talking to who, why they're talking to them, how accurate that information might be, and how we factor that into our battle plans. Our CENTCOM commander knows what's going on, so we know what's going on. The American people can rest assured that their commander-in-chief is well aware of who's talking to who, and anything that shouldn't be happening, whether it's in public or back-channeled, it's being confronted, and confronted strongly. Okay. I hope so, dude. And I think also part of the drop would have been this as well, this sudden post from Trump, totally uncalled for, but okay. He says that there will be no deal with Iran. Well, thank you. Except unconditional surrender. The same terms he used in last year's war. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leaders, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. MEGA. They use that so much for different countries. Make Italy great again. Make India great again. Make Israel great again. Make Iran great again. What about Iraq? What are the countries start with an I? I don't know. I'm sure you guys are going to yell at me in the comments for not knowing another country that starts with an I. Sorry. I said the ones I know. President Trump has privately expressed serious interest in deploying American troops on the ground in Iran. Let's not do that. He has discussed the idea with White House aides and Republican officials outside the administration as part of a plan to establish a post-war Iran willing to cooperate with the U.S. on oil, like Venezuela. I did mention it's probably going to be difficult to have a regime change without boots on the ground, so like actual U.S. military forces being there, dying potentially. We already had 6 deaths so far, at least that we know of. I don't know how I feel about it. So that's like the strong opposition that a lot of people have, but it seems like it's going to continue on either way. We did try to pass that War Powers resolution thing yesterday, which failed to pass, which would require, Congress to vote on performing any military action over there. Okay. I guess that's also an issue. Why is Lockheed Martin yapping over here? Trump posted this on Truth Social. We just concluded a very good meeting with the largest U.S. defense manufacturing companies, where we discussed production and production schedules. That's another issue too. Anyway, they have agreed to quadruple production of the exquisite class weaponry in that we want to reach as rapidly as possible the highest levels of quantity. Expansion began 3 months prior to the meeting, and plants and production of many of these weapons are already underway. We have a virtually unlimited supply of medium and upper medium grade munitions, which we are using as an example in Iran and recently used in Venezuela. Regardless, however, we have also increased orders at these levels. The companies represented were the CEOs of BAE Systems, Boeing, Honeywell Aerospace, I have a friend who works there. L3 Harris Missile Solutions, Lockheed Martin, which we'll discuss what they said, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon, the stock that the new DHS secretary just purchased, the guy that's replacing Kristi Noem. The meeting concluded with another meeting scheduled in 2 months. Why? States all over the country are bidding for these new plants. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm sure Lockheed Martin and them are having a great day. Right? Yeah, they're doing all right. It's not too bad. The official Lockheed Martin account said that we have agreed to quadruple critical munitions production. As a result of President Trump's leadership, we began this work months ago with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and Deputy Secretary Feinberg. Okay. Well, I guess that's fine. These will just continue, because they have to make more stuff. They're obviously going to perform very well. Especially during times of war. That's what they do. That's what they live for. We're committed to working with our industry partners to further strengthen the American military's unparalleled capability with the greatest munitions in the world. We are moving with urgency, and we will deliver. Yeah, this is the other thing I was going to mention, is that the cost to defend against the missiles, so the air defense systems, are more expensive than it is for Iran to make missiles and drones. So we're actually spending a lot of money here compared to what Iran is spending on their counterattacks. Yeah, they're taking every hit that we're sending them, or most of them at least. But the retaliatory strikes, I mean, it's going to get difficult for us to try to intercept all of that. Money-wise and just in general, we're getting overwhelmed, I guess. That's why we're requiring more stuff to be sent over there, more money in there, more partnerships with defense companies, and potentially boots on the ground in Iran. Yeah. Have a look at this picture. Last year, the regime's president met with all IRGC generals. Since then, all of them are dead, except for one. And if you recognize this man, that is this man right over here. We've talked about him before. Ismail Qaini. He is confirmed safe in Israel. He actually got detained in Iran for questioning because he was really suspicious. I think this is indeed the mole inside the Iranian government, because literally how could you tell when and where the Ayatollah Khamenei would be, these other Iranian officials? Same thing happened last year. I think we saw the same deal with this guy, pointing out where the Hamas leader was, pointing out where the president was, the newly inaugurated president, after the other one suspiciously crashed in a helicopter. So, yeah. It can now be revealed that he played a key role in the elimination of the Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, Hezbollah leaders, Nasrallah and Safadin, and the elimination of Khamenei and top IRGC generals. Interesting. So there's that. And also, have a look at this. This is, I guess, the... Let me copy-paste this. Let me paste it here. The IDF... Nope. It has been revealed where former Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was located when the IDF attacked with 50 Israeli Air Force fighter jets. It truly looks like it would be impossible to get him. This is unreal. The Israeli Defense Forces released a 3D animation laying out an illustration of the underground bunker in Tehran. And how do you get access to this is my question. Surely. The mole, he told them what to do, where they would be. It's interesting, though. I like that. Cool how they make these underground bases. On the other side of the world, literally in a neighboring province in Canada, an Islamic center in Canada holds a service to mourn and honor the death of Ayatollah Khamenei. We got a bit of everything over here. No big deal. We're also going to grant permanent residence to 33,000 foreign workers under a new program. I wonder from where? Under what program, literally? This is a soft launch temporary resident to permanent resident pathway from today's announcement by Immigration Minister Lena Metlej Diab. Whomst is this? Okay, well, thanks for that, I guess. It targets up to 33,000 skilled temporary foreign workers in in-demand sectors already in Canada over 2026 to 27 for the 2026 to 28 levels plan. More eligibility details coming in April to help retain those with community ties amid expiring permits. What jobs are these? Like agriculture, construction, hospitality, transportation, and care services. Okay. Fine, I guess. Source, trust me, bro. Okay. That's all for that. Hey, guess what? We're becoming like the Australians and the UKians, the English. Social media ban for kids under consideration in the new online harms bill. Thanks, Mark Carney. I'm not a child anymore, so I literally do not care. Kevin Warsh, my guy. What is he saying? Officially nominated as Fed Chair Powell's replacement. We do know that. White House has officially transmitted President Trump's nomination of Kevin Warsh to become the next Federal Reserve Chairman, succeeding Jerome Powell, which we've talked about. Just want to bring him up once again to get an update, a refresher on what to expect from this man. He's coming in soon. Warsh was a former Fed governor from 2006 to 2011. He repeatedly called Bitcoin a good policeman for policy that keeps central banks honest, acts as a real money discipline, and it serves as a powerful store of value. While he is cautious about it fully replacing fiat, his views signal a massive shift. Less endless money printing, and more respect for sound assets like Bitcoin. If confirmed, and markets are heavily betting yes, this could mean that this would be a Fed less addicted to quantitative easing and zero rates, more openness to crypto as part of the financial system, and potential tailwinds for Bitcoin adoption at institutional levels. We're already seeing that, especially with what we got yesterday. The idea of the tokenization being treated the same between banks, right? The original nomination dropped back in late January, but this week's formal Senate transmission kicks the confirmation process into high gear. Let's see how that goes. Trump's Fed pick warns that the Fed may be behind the curve. Kevin Warsh says that the U.S. may be entering a transformational economic moment driven by AI. He argues artificial intelligence could unleash a major productivity boom, lowering the cost of goods and services across the economy. In his view, what we call AI today may simply become normal business operations within a few years. Warsh's concern is that the Federal Reserve may not fully recognize the shift. If policymakers rely on older economic models, they could interpret strong growth as inflationary, even if productivity gains are actually pushing prices lower. If that happens, the Fed risks tightening policy just as the economy is entering a new phase of technology-driven growth. Bearish overall, I guess. Hold on. Strong growth as inflationary. Strong growth as inflationary. Why? So AI could be a bad thing because it would be inflationary. I don't see how. Yet, at least. And AI is taking over some jobs, so more people unemployed. Once again, you get that stagflation issue, I guess. I don't understand how it would be inflationary, though. I feel like, yeah, jobs market would suffer, of course, if AI starts taking over jobs. But you don't have to pay the salary of these employers. That's why stock prices go up. That's what we saw with Block Company, with Jack Dorsey firing half the whole company to replace it with AI and only keeping some intelligent people, I guess. Hey, everyone's intelligent, but I guess the ones worth keeping around, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have fired half the company to replace it with AI. The stock price jumps up for Block. And where does the inflation kick in? That's my question. I don't understand this one. But we shall see. Crypto market structure talks are moving in the right direction, with Senator Tillis emerging as a key vote for the Clarity Act's passage. Okay, Senator Tillis, you know what to do. Industry sources remain cautiously optimistic about a late March Banking Committee markup, per Eleanor Terrett. The Clarity Act could still pass this summer. Okay. According to Fortune, crypto industry leader Kristen Smith says the Clarity Act still has a realistic path forward, potentially as soon as July. The bill has faced turbulence in Washington, especially as banks push back against parts of the framework and stablecoin debates intensify. But Smith says that kind of friction is normal for a major market structure bill. The key factor is now political momentum. The legislation already passed the House with bipartisan support, and backing from the White House could help it move through the Senate, right? If passed, the Clarity Act would finally establish clear regulatory framework for digital assets in the United States, including defining whether the SEC or CFTC oversees different parts of the crypto market. This one's for securities, this one's for commodities. After years of uncertainty, Washington may finally be close to writing the rulebook for crypto. We did cover this post from before March 3rd, Trump's comments on the Genius Act. I have another post about it, so we'll talk about that soon. Post check on crypto market structure from a handful of conversations with industry sources today, says Eleanor Terrett. First on the yield. The ball appears to be in Tillis's court, Senator Tillis, Tom Tillis. The North Carolina Republican was shaping up to be a holdout in January when the banking GOP committee was preparing for a markup. Amendments from Tillis and Senator Brooks that restricted the scope of stablecoin rewards issued by crypto firms were later cited by Coinbase as one of several reasons it withdrew support for the bill. Cringe, imagine, Coinbase. Now the White House has shared legislative text, the result of the past month's negotiations with crypto and banks, with Tillis's office, which has been meeting with industry and White House representatives in recent days, with talks described as moving in the right direction. Good. This tracks with my early reporting that there may never be a eureka moment where crypto and the banks reach full agreement and ride off into the sunset. Instead, it looks like language is being drafted around the minimum both sides can tolerate, with the ultimate goal of quickly getting something back to the banking committee to get the ball rolling again. Per the CEO of Cody Carbone DC Digital Chamber, Senator Tillis has been very receptive to our discussions about stablecoin yield. I'm optimistic we will find a way to get a yes vote on the bill, and we appreciate his work to try to advance market structure rules of the road. Please, my money depends on that. Oh, so Digital Chamber is the company. The CEO is Cody Carbone. Okay, I mixed that up. Even if no Democrats vote yes on the Clarity Act during the next Banking Committee markup, it could still pass along party lines. But Tillis's vote will be crucial if there is no Democratic buy-in. Come on, Democrats. Meanwhile, other industry stakeholders focused on different parts of the bill tell me that the yield issue has taken a lot of oxygen out of the room, leaving other sticking points, mostly around DeFi, out to pasture. A DeFi leader involved in market structure negotiations said it feels like Senate Democrats are now scrambling to address those remaining issues. Ethics concerns will also likely remain top of mind for some of those Dem members. Those damn members. I love that. Democratic members, we get it. One crypto trade executive, whoops. Dude, my job lingo is taking over. Executor is like when somebody dies and they take over their finances, and I have to deal with that sometimes. Okay, sorry. One crypto trade executive, or exec, says they are now considering alternatives if a Senate banking markup slips further into the calendar year, but remains cautiously optimistic that the next 3 weeks will produce enough progress on yield or rewards and other issues for the banking committee to reschedule a markup in late March. Let's hope it goes well. Banks are holding it hostage? Yeah, probably. All right. For the Genius Act. President Trump is absolutely right about one thing. America should lead the future in crypto. The United States should be the crypto capital of the world, not China. But the president also deserves to know exactly who is whispering into his ears right now. As I've been saying for a while now, many of the loudest voices pushing the Clarity Act and other crypto legislation in Washington are not to be trusted. They are the same Democrat operatives, Biden staffers, and Obama-era hacks who spent years trying to put Trump in jail. Just look at who these companies are hiring. Wow, we're calling out Coinbase live over here. Coinbase stacked its advisory ranks with people tied to the Biden-Harris orbit, including Brian Armstrong and David Plouffe. These are the same leftist political networks that are still funding far-left socialist Democrats and the same Democrat political operatives who cheered on the regulatory assault against crypto during the Biden years. True, I guess. Now suddenly they're presenting themselves as partners in President Trump's crypto agenda. Didn't everybody, even the billionaires, sure, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, all these people suddenly pro-Trump, having dinners at the Trump White House with Trump, etc. When before in the past, they have been donating to Democrats and all this kind of stuff. Only now that Trump wins, now we're going to invest, $600 billion in the United States infrastructure, whatever. I feel like that kind of shift is everywhere. That should raise serious red flags. Check the FEC records like I have, and you'll see that they are still donating to Democrats. President Trump's instinct to bring innovation back to America is exactly right, but the Democrat crypto lobbyists crowding the White House crypto meetings are trying to destroy the America First movement. If crypto Democrats, like Brian Armstrong, were serious about getting the Clarity Act across the finish line, he wouldn't have sabotaged the bill when it was about to be voted on the Senate earlier this year. I don't know. Brad Garlinghouse is also a Democratic donor, but he was in favor of passing it. I'm sure it doesn't have much to do with politics, does it? Maybe Brian Armstrong does truly want something that is worth it and good. That's why he refused. That's the way I see it. I don't know if we should involve him into the political side of it all. But sure, the evidence is there, I guess. Crypto leadership should come from people who actually support the president, not the same radical left political class that has tried to keep Trump out of the White House for years. Like a coin, Brian Armstrong has two faces. We talked about this post before. When was this one from? February 18. Why is Brian Armstrong hiring key figures from Biden's inner circle? David Plouffe, a senior advisor to Kamala Harris' campaign, while publicly praising President Trump's pro-crypto policies and crediting them for massive U.S. hiring plans. Hypocrite, Coinbase, Democrat, Satan. I love it. Okay, let me take a drink. All right. But it's okay, guys. The White House is on our side, right? The White House just released, literally minutes ago, Trump's cyber strategy for America, and it does contain important signal for Bitcoin. The strategy explicitly states the U.S. will support securing cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies as part of protecting American innovation and technological leadership. Crypto appears with a broader pillar focused on securing emerging technologies alongside areas like AI and post-quantum cybersecurity. This whole quantum thing, why is it always going to be an issue? Whatever. Bitcoin and blockchain are now being treated like strategic technology infrastructure the US wants to secure and lead in. The document also calls for removing burdensome regulations that slow innovation across emerging tech sectors. Washington is increasingly viewing Bitcoin and crypto as part of the technology stack shaping the future digital economy. Bitcoin is becoming more of a strategic asset for the United States, but the price doesn't reflect that, but that's okay. Tokenized stocks surpass $1 billion. We are so back. Solana ETF flows are quietly massive. I think I disagree, but let me confirm. I don't think Solana ETF flows are quietly massive. Have you seen this chart? That does not look like a massive inflow to me. But we'll read this, I guess. According to Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, Solana has dropped about 57% since spot ETFs launched in July, arguably some of the worst timing any ETF launch could have. True. Yet the funds have still attracted roughly $1.45 billion in cumulative inflows, and most of that capital has stayed in the products. I guess that's good. Another notable detail is about 50% of the assets come from 13F filers, meaning that institutional investors are making up a large share of the investor base. Balchunas also pointed out something many are overlooking. If you adjust the flows for Solana's smaller market cap relative to Bitcoin, the demand is roughly equivalent to about $54 billion in Bitcoin ETF flows at the same stage. How do you do that math? But okay. At that point in its ETF cycle, Bitcoin had roughly that amount, and Bitcoin was rallying, not down nearly 60%. Okay. Despite brutal price action, the institutional appetite behind Solana ETFs appears stronger than many expected. All right. Where do we see here? USD and Solana ETFs. Here's the total. About $1 billion. Is this $1 billion? It's not even $1 billion. Yeah, it is $1 billion. No, it isn't. No, Solana's USD. No, it's not even $1 billion. 80 million total inflow. So I don't know where you're getting these numbers from. Cumulative inflows, I guess. So that's excluding the outflows. Maybe. Sure. I love how T-Sol is 0 the whole time. Why do you even exist on this chart? And then Vanek only did this one-time purchase ever. Okay. Overall, selling from Grayscale, that was to be expected. What you thought they were going to inflow a lot? Fidelity for some reason has been outflowing overall, but most of the inflows coming from Bitwise. That's nice, I guess. What about Rex shares? Why don't we talk about Rex shares? Rex Osprey. They have a Dogecoin ETF. They have the XRP Solana ETF. They've got a lot. But I guess we're not going to talk about them. Fair. No, not fair. Why are we not talking about them? It's SSG. I remember that ticker. Nope, that's not it. Which one is it? I forget already. Who cares? I guess they're just not popular. Publicly listed Bitcoin mining companies. They have been offloading more than 15,000 Bitcoins since October. Key sales include Kango selling 4,451 Bitcoins in February. It's about 60% of their reserves. BitDeer liquidating its entire Bitcoin treasury last month. Wow. Riot Platforms made multiple Bitcoin sales in December. Core Scientific plans to sell approximately 2,500 Bitcoins in the first quarter. Marathon Holdings. Their latest filing discloses flexibility to buy and sell Bitcoin. The current holdings are 53,000 Bitcoin. Okay. The miners are capitulating at this point. But I mean, that's just a bottom indicator in my opinion. So I don't mind it too much. It's to be expected, especially in bear markets. They have to sell off to cover for their expenses, and Bitcoin is not at the price it once was. And in order to cover the mining, the whole thing with this whole mining thing, right? Yes, mining Bitcoin adds more Bitcoin into the circulation. Wow, shocker. Okay. But the thing is that if the price is so low for Bitcoin right now at 68,000, that's not enough to pay the bills for the electricity costs that it takes to mine Bitcoins, if you're even lucky enough to mine it. So what do is they will either sell at a loss, which that's not ideal, and they will add to the circulation. That's part of the reason why, price is being suppressed, minor capitulation. Or they just simply pause their whole operation. They don't continue mining Bitcoin. They stop all the mining. No Bitcoin gets mined. Of course, there will always be Bitcoin mined, but like not at the pace that it once was before, or at the intensity, which stops the supply from increasing, more Bitcoins being mined. That kind of stops. And it gives time for the price to eventually catch up. And then when the miners start seeing that price is already on the rise again, then they're like, yeah, now it's profitable to start mining again. So we're going to continue mining. We're going to turn on the Bitcoin miners. That's the way I see this. And we're at that stage already where it's like, okay, it's too low. We're just going to pause the mining or sell off if we have to. And some of these are already selling their entire Bitcoin treasury. BitDear, what are you doing? But okay, at least Eric Trump is still going at it. The S&P 500. They were supposed to announce tonight, well, that means they already did announce it, at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time, which companies will be added to the index. MicroStrategy not nominated. This happens every quarter, the first Friday of March, June, September, and December. The top stocks that are being discussed to be added is Vertiv, Ferguson, Marvell, Cheniere Energy, SoFi, and Reddit. Where's the actual thing? What is this? The same thing that I read? So yeah, Grok basically confirms it. Vertiv Holdings leads the prediction markets. 70% chance that it gets added. SoFi gets a 25% chance to 42% chance to being added to the S&P 500. And Sienna, 35 to 38% chance. Other possibilities are Al-Nilam, never heard of that. And Affirm, I've heard of Affirm. Expect 1 to 3 names to be announced at 5:15. So what was it? And of course it is bullish if your company does get into the S&P 500. That is huge exposure. That is great. But of course, if you have to add numbers to the number 500, you got to remove some. Deletions aren't predictable or buzzed about as addition. S&P removes names that no longer meet criteria like float adjusted market cap, at least a $9 billion market cap, recent profitability or liquidity. Usually 1 to 3 per quarter to balance. No strong consensus predictions out there for today's announcement. Expect smaller or underperforming stocks sliding out. Official list drops soon from S&P Dow Jones. Watch for it. What is it? Which ones do you think will be deleted? It's less predictable. We'll find out together. Guess. Guessing is tricky. These guys are really pushing Grok. They really want to know. So what is it? I guess I'll find out now. Let's see. What stocks were added to... My OBS is disconnected. There we go, we're good. So Vertiv got added. Lumentum Holdings, never heard of that. Coherent and EchoStar, never heard of those either. Those were added. What stocks were removed? Do we know yet? No stocks were removed. So we have 503 companies. What is going on? The additions appear to be net additions or promotions from mid-cap without specified removals in available reports. Effective March 23rd. Okay, so that's when they're actually getting added. Didn't read that part. So they're not officially there yet. I guess we also have to wait until March 23rd to get the removals then. That will be 2 weeks from now, Monday. Okay. I guess. Vertiv Holdings. What was that again? I had it in this post. So Vertiv is a data center infrastructure. What was the other one? Lumentum Holdings. That's not even on this list. EchoStar, not on this list. And Coherent, not on this list. Interesting. I thought SoFi would have maybe made it, maybe Reddit, although Reddit was kind of trash in terms of stock price. And as an app itself, I mean, I never use Reddit. I use it like once a year, maybe. And by accident, too. But I'm sure it's got its purposes, so whatever. If you use Reddit, then you use Reddit. What can we do? Let me go check the stock prices to see if there's any impact on these. VRT. I guess it's not priced in yet? Surely it must be, right? Or maybe this was already it. It already had high odds that it was going to be added to the S&P 500. What's the other one? Coherent, COHR. What even are these? Yeah, definitely not priced in at all. It's about engineering materials, lasers for industrial communications, electronics, and instrumentation markets. And semiconductor capital equipment, display capital equipment, precision manufacturing, and aerospace and defense. Interesting. Stock price, by the way. You need to go to weekly charts. And what's the other one? SATS, EchoStar. I guess overall it's been performing well. What do we do here? Design, development, and distribution of digital set-top boxes and products for direct-to-home satellite service providers. So TV. Boring. That's about it. Oh, Light. Lumentum Holdings. No idea what this is. It engages in provision of optical and photonic products, operating through cloud and networking and industrial tech segments. Cloud and networking segments and industrial tech segments. Fiber lasers, ultra-fast lasers. What's with all these lasers? So it's about manufacturing electronics as well. Crazy movement. What about this 20% drop on the weekly? Hello, can we talk about that? I guess we're going to have to wait until Monday to see how this impacts the price, because these got announced at 5 p.m. Even post-market hours, they're not open at that time. But I'm sure they'll be well. They will do well. Especially if S&P picks them, so... And that's effective March 23rd, like I said. So we still got a while before we see any of their impacts on the actual index. Not that they will have a huge one anyway. I mean, there's 500 other companies around it, so yeah. Okay, that's all for tonight's stream. That's all the news I had to cover. Lovely, we got through it. So anyways, what do we expect for next week? Are we getting any economic data at all? The biggest one was the non-farm payroll, which happened today. We ultimately got a big fat drop. Thanks for that. What was the ADP? Did we manage to predict it? I don't remember what the odds were. ADP. ADP actually came in stronger. So it was completely wrong. Yeah. Just goes to show, you know, you can't really trust it. Okay, what's next week? Weekly change, who cares about that? Inflation rate, that's coming up on Wednesday. Housing, building permits, jobless claims on Thursday. And then Friday we get GDP and PCE data. Okay, there you go. So we do have stuff to look forward to next week as well. And jolts, I guess, if you care about that. I mean, we do kind of care because of the jobs market. So yeah, that's what to expect. Hoping for favorability for a change. I don't know if we're just going to continue seeing, you know, more fear of recession, stagflation type deal. We're also having a Fed meeting soon. 11 days. Is that in 2 weeks then? Okay, hold on. I mean, yeah, we're already expecting no rate cut, but didn't expect it to already happen. It's that fast. This month, I guess. Which day was it? 20... I don't know. What's 6 plus 11? 27? That is so wrong, isn't it? 17. No. Yeah, it's 17. Dude, my math is actually bad. I don't see it here. What? Next FOMC meeting, I could just read the date here. What am I doing? 18th of March. How? It's 6. Oh, I guess this is like with the hours included. 11 days, 15 hours. Okay, sure. You win. Fine. Here it is, FOMC. And we also get projections. Okay. Hey, it might be an interesting one then. But that's in 2 weeks from now, right? Yeah, it's 2 weeks from now. Okay, so still important stuff to look over next week and the week after. And this 80,000 is in play for those 2 upcoming weeks, coincidentally. So we can get the volatility to get up there, but it could also be really, really bad. But we'll know. We'll know by next week for sure. Hi, Pika Pooch. Hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, that's all I have for tonight. Overall, my expectations are toward the upside. We have a cushion to drop. For Bitcoin, it's 64,500 maybe. And Ethereum, it's 1,850. We can drop to those levels, but we'll still be perfectly fine. I'd still expect us to continue on the rise for the upcoming 2 weeks at least. After that, is there anything else important happening? Literally nothing. Up until the end of the month. Literally nothing up until the end of the month. So the last major event is this FOMC meeting, which this is already priced in. The fact that we're not getting a rate cut. How much worse can it get? Are they going to hike rates? No, they're not. So I think that's overall a bullish event. And also, their projections that they're going to give us, that's a bit of a gamble. Hey, 1, 2 rate cuts. At least the second rate cut is slightly in our favor. 51 to 49% chance of getting that second rate cut in December. The Fed originally projected only 1. If they surprise us with 2 projections, hey, we might be in for a treat. But yeah, we'll get to that when we eventually get to it. We need to pass through this economic data first next week. Hopefully inflation kind of relaxes. I really don't think it will, though. With this whole war thing going on, oil at the high prices, it's going to be rough. But we'll be covering all of that. So, okay, there we go. Ending stream now, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your